Hi, I'm Matt Church. Welcome to ThoughtLeadersStudio.com. Today I want to talk about what you should center your attention on when presenting. The way I see it, there are 5 elements when presenting that you could pay attention to, and I think that 2 of these elements are not that helpful, and I think 3 are absolutely ideal. In fact, in the world-class presenter and speech building programs I run, I've built the whole program, particularly the presentation skills one, world-class presenter, around the outer 3 rings. So it kind of makes sense. Let me set it up for you. I'd like you to think of the first ring with the letter I in it, and that's when you worry all about yourself when you present. I think you're going to be in a lot of trouble. When you worry about whether, I'm qualified, whether I'm good enough, whether I'm successful as a speaker, whether, I'm wearing my A suit or my B suit, whether I look fat in this, whether I'm carrying 2 kilos more, or whatever it might be that's going on in your head. Any dialogue in your head around yourself is going to be really unhelpful. And the quickest way to fix that type of nervous tension is to take the words "I'm nervous" and replace them with "how can I be of service?" Now, that's got kind of Martin Luther-esque sort of rhythm and rhyme to it, I know. But what I'm actually saying is you've got to get out of yourself and get sort of attention out into the world. Now, the problem is that the second ring that comes, so if we've got the letter I, the second one should be you, and I'm talking about you as the audience there. If I spend all my time worrying about you, then I'm equally as disabled as down here where I worry about myself. You see, when you worry about you, and don't ever, those suggestions to fix nervous tension, like picture your audience naked, find a spot just above their eyes and look at that. They're terrible suggestions because they take you from, first of all, worrying about yourself, and then now you're just worrying about everybody else in the room. I've had experiences where there were people in the room going through all kinds of weird things in their head. I'm laughing because I can remember a guy that it was as if he had Tourette's. So I was speaking, there was 180 people in the Blue Mountains, and I'm going, "Ladies and gentlemen, he's up the back going, effectively cursing at me during the program. Now, it turns out that a little bit earlier, at about 5 o'clock, his wife had served him his divorce papers while away on the retreat. She was concerned that he would become violent, and based on his verbal violence, I would think probably with good cause. So what happens is if I spend all of my time, I obviously had to manage that distraction, but I don't need to respond to everything going on in the room. Now, that's a negative example. A positive example would be that you only look at the people that are smiling at you. My friend Alan Parker, a fabulous presenter, would suggest to you that they are the lighthouses, and you can use lighthouses to sort of give you energy when you're presenting. And that's true. And also, don't spend all your time looking at them, because then you're not evenly distributed around the room. And don't spend your time just standing next to the friendly table or the polite row. You got to present to everybody, and so you got to cast your net wide. So you can't worry about yourself, and you can't be spending time worrying about your audience. So let's get into the 3 productive centers of attention. And the way you understand center of attention is what is the conversation that you're having in your head while you're presenting. Because if the conversation you're having in your head is about yourself or about the audience, you're going to get nervous and you're not going to be effective. What we need to do is we need to get the first productive ring. So we've got focusing on yourself's not good. Focusing on your audience, not so good. The third one, if we had I and you, I'd like you now to write we. The sooner you can move from a presentation to a conversation, the better. Now, with really, really small rooms, there's lots of easy ways to do this, right? I get into conversation in a really, really small room by going, "Hi, what's your name? Why are you here?" And we've all been through experiences like that. But when you've got 1,500 or 15,000 or 150,000 in a room, how do you do it? Well, you might, for the 150 or the 1,500, you may have surveyed your audience using some free online tool like SurveyMonkey, right? Send to the organizer a quick survey, what's working in your game, what's not working. If a speaker turned up and talked about this, what would be the one thing you'd want to know, etc., etc. So you could just simply ask a couple of pre-questions. Send them out through electronically, something like SurveyMonkey. You stand up. Obviously, you can't talk to 1,500 people. So what you might do is go, we sent out a survey and here's what you said. Now, by doing that, even though it appears one way, the fact that I'm really conscious of who you are and I've bothered to survey who you are means that we get into conversation. Now, you might not have time to survey the audience and you might not have so few people that you could actually ask why are they here. So what do? Sometimes I turn up, I haven't had time to survey. I just get really present to the type of person they are. So if they're a small business franchise owners, I go, okay, what's their franchise? I make sure I've walked through one of their franchises. I make sure I've read a book on franchising, yeah? And then what I do is I go, I would ask them rhetorical questions, not expecting an answer. But by the very nature of the questions I'm asking, they get to go, oh wow, this guy's in my head. This guy understands what it's like to walk a mile in my shoes. And see, this is how we get into we. The great Zig Ziglar shakes hands in the door, and he can't shake everybody's hand, but he shakes enough hands that people feel he's approachable and accessible. Fabulous presenters don't hide in the wings. They get out and mingle with people before they go on, realizing that you're on before you're on. So get into a we conversation. All right, the fourth ring, which is the second really productive one, is to understand your message. So if you focus on yourself, you have an I problem. If you focus on the audience, you have a you problem. You've got to get into we by moving from presentation to conversation. And then you must have compelling message. Because in my mind, if you don't know what you're talking about, you've got no right being on stage. The great Marcus Tullius Cicero was a speechwriter and was the nemesis of Julius Caesar. And Cicero said, or it was said of Cicero, they said that when Caesar spoke, men wept, but when Cicero spoke, armies marched. And that's the power of message. I think that we have diminished message over the last decade, and nearly every presentation skills program I've ever been to says, it doesn't matter what you're saying, it's how you say it that matters. That's rubbish. We have seen people who are atrocious presenters, doing everything wrong. They've got their back to the audience, they're jiggling coins in their pocket, they've got too many slides or none at all, and it doesn't matter because the message that they're delivering is truly compelling. In other words, message trumps method in my mind. But I'm not saying that it's absence of method. I run programs on presentation skills. I obviously believe that there is an art and a science to the delivery of influential, confident presentations. Which leads me to the fifth ring. Once you've got over yourself, got over your audience, got into conversation, built compelling message, you've then got to focus on your methodology. And when you are a method master, you are kind of floating above your presentations, having sort of an out-of-body experience as you watch yourself present. Now, it's no mumbo jumbo. It's just, you know yourself, you know how to create engagement, and so you're observing the placement of word, you're observing the physical movements of status from horizontal to vertical, and all of these things are coming together to help make you a more compelling presenter. So methodology then trumps them. Let me say something about these 5 rings. I actually believe there's little I and big I. Little I is, oh, I'm not good enough. Big I is, here I am fully. And ironically, I encourage people to figure out how to amplify authentically who they are when they present. And that's what I call big I, not this little I of worrying about yourself. Why do I share big I, little I? Well, I want you to think about these 5 things as actually being an evolutionary process. So it's not that you shouldn't think about yourself. It's not that you shouldn't think about the audience. You have to be completely contained over yourself, completely aware of the needs of others, then over them, into conversation so you're fully present. Because most presenters aren't present. They're not present, and we need to be. And then you've got to get into compelling message with extraordinary methodology. And to me, this is the key to taking your presentation skills from the 1.0 space of where you stand, how you talk, intonation, and pause, and getting it into something that's truly magnificent, something that's truly contemporary, where you have engagement, relevance, and meaning driving everything you do. Can't wait to see you in one of the programs soon.